The floor is yours.
President, honourable members, Vice President, on the 29th and 30th of June, the European Council convened to deal with Ukraine, economy, security and defence, as well as migration. Leaders will also discuss China and prepare the summit in July with Latin America and the Caribbean. The meeting will start with the customary exchange with the President of this House. Ukraine remains top of our European agenda. And let me begin by expressing my gratitude to the European Parliament's resolute and unwavering support. President Zelensky is expected to address the European Council via video link, and leaders will take stock of the latest development in Russia's war of aggression. Last week, we witnessed the destruction of the Kakhovka dam, which has devastating consequences for thousands of Ukrainians and their entire communities. Innocent people have been deprived of their homes and their livelihood. Too many have lost their lives. The disaster would not have happened if Russia has not started this illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. In spite of all this, the Ukrainian spirit and determination grow stronger for each day. It is truly remarkable that Ukraine has been able to move forward on its reform efforts under these extremely difficult circumstances. We have said it before, but we say it again. Ukraine's future is within the European Union. During this semester, the Union has taken important decisions to accelerate support for Ukraine. We have continued to put pressure on Russia by adopting the 10th sanction package. And let me assure you that the Swedish presidency is working tirelessly to package number 11. We are progressing on how much to use Russian frozen immobilized assets, and we do it in close cooperation with our partners in allies in G7. We are moving towards EU agreement on a judicial solution regarding Russia's crime of aggression. We have provided ammunition to Ukraine, and we have decided to procure ammunition together. We are also working on the act in support of ammunition production to strengthen our industry capacity. On the economic agenda, leaders will follow up their conclusions on industrial policy and on the single market and Europe's long-term competitiveness and productivity. As you know, European competitiveness is a core priority of the Swedish Council's presidency. Our economic policies have long been decided by short-term crisis management, public interventions and aid packages, such as the reaction of COVID-19 and the US Inflation Reduction Act. Over the last 4 decades, our growth rates have been modest compared to the United States. European productivity is lower than other major economies, and perhaps even more, we continue to spend less on research and development. Europe needs a long-term approach, and this spring has marked an important step towards such an approach. The Commission forcefully responded to the European Council's request for a strategy to boost competitiveness and productivity, and the strategy puts the internal market, R&D, skills, access to private capital, and better regulation at the core of EU policies. Reversing trends will take dedicated actions overseen by leaders over many years, and we hope that we can count on Parliament's support. On security and defence, the European Council will take stock of the progress of the implementation of its previous conclusions and give further guidance on the Union's security and defence capacity. Leaders will discuss the reinforcement of our defence industry through the Common Procurement Act, IDIRPA, and the Act in Support of Ammunition Production, ASAP. They are also expected to welcome the approval of Civil Common Security and Defence Policy Compact. In the presence of Secretary-General Stoltenberg, the European Council will discuss EU-NATO cooperation ahead of the NATO summit in Vilnius. Moreover, the European Council will hold a strategic discussion on China. Unity and determination will strengthen the effectiveness and credibility of our relations with China. In the EU, we need to formulate our own open but firm approach to global affairs and also rely on strong partnership with the US and other democracies. Our own societies must rest on a solid base in terms of economy and democracy. We need strategic unity in defending openness and cooperation, while addressing vulnerabilities and excessive dependencies while with security implications. That is de-risking in practice. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Council will also once again come back to the issue of migration, and not at least at the external dimension. President von der Leyen's visit to Tunisia, along with Prime Minister Meloni and Prime Minister Rutte, reaffirms the leaders' commitment to working with partners. The Presidency and the Commission will inform the implementation of the conclusions on migration from February and March. And this time it will be in a positive spirit of the New Deal of the Migration Pact in the Council. The Swedish Presidency has worked hard for this, and we are proud that the Council is now ready to go into final stage and find a compromise between the co-legislators. We urgently need a deal that can deliver results. Mr. President, if you allow me, since this is my last and final Strasbourg sessions as presidency, I also want to take the opportunity to say thank you and express my gratitude to being able to represent the Council in this chamber. I am convinced, and maybe even more after this 6 months, that the only way forward is a strong, respectful and sincere cooperation between the Council and the Parliament. The Swedish Presidency has worked very hard on advancing our common political agenda, and I do truly thank the Parliament for a high level of commitment from your side. With that, I would like to say thank you for your attention and looking forward to the debate. Thank you.
Frau Roswell, der Dank liegt auch bei uns. Danke für Ihr Engagement, Ihre ständige Präsenz und Ihre Offenheit im Dialog mit dem Europäischen Parlament. Nicht nur in diesem Hause, sondern auch bei den Begegnungen, die wir auch gemeinsam hatten in der Zusammenarbeit mit den nationalen Parlamenten. Herzlichen Dank und alles Gute. Ich komme nun zum Vertreter der Kommission, Herrn Vizepräsidenten Šefčovič Maroš. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Madam Minister, dear Jessica, honourable members of the European Parliament. The last European Council before the summer break comes at an important moment in time. Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine rages on, with the destruction of Kakhovka Dam leading to an unprecedented human and ecological disaster. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is now underway, and leaders will, in no doubt, look at the developments very closely. They will discuss the situation on the ground and all aspects of our continued unwavering and multifaceted support, including on Ukraine's peace formula, sanctions and sanctions enforcement, frozen assets, military assistance, Russia's accountability, and a brief point on enlargement based on the Commission's oral report to be presented at the informal General Affairs Council on the 21st and 22nd of June. If you allow me to proceed with economic matters, the Commission will put forward a communication on European economic security next week, which will help steer the leaders' discussion. In line with the March European Council conclusions, the Commission will also update the leaders on the progress made since the adoption of the long-term competitiveness communication on the 16th of March, including on discussions with the US on the effects of the Inflation Reduction Act. As you know, there are a number of concrete proposals on the table to further strengthen the single market and the competitiveness of our industry. And we are very happy to work on all of them with both co-legislators. I'm talking about the Critical Raw Materials Act, about Net Zero Industry Act, about the Artificial Intelligence Act and Data Act. All of them are very important for the competitiveness of the European economy. And we are very much looking forward to continue progressing on this file with both co-legislators. Following the review in November 2022, in April, Commission presented proposals to implement the most comprehensive reform of the EU's economic governance rules since the aftermath of the financial crisis. The measures are designed to strengthen public debt sustainability while promoting sustainable and inclusive growth through reforms and investment in all member states. With the general escape clause set to expire at the end of 2023, we hope leaders will encourage further work on this issue in the Council. Leaders will also endorse an integrated country-specific recommendations and conclude the 2023 European semester. And finally, Commission's proposals on the review of the multi-annual financial framework to be published next week will feed into the leaders' first discussion on the matter with a view to steering the work of the Council. I think that the external issue has been excellently covered by Minister Jessica Roswell. I would just add that we will also prepare in a great depth the discussion of the leader on the agenda for Latin America and Caribbean, but also on our overall relationship with China, and will also provide the material for the discussions on the relations with partners in Mediterranean, in particular Tunisia. So if you allow me, Mr. President, I would now proceed to the topic of particular interest of the plenary today, and this is migration. The approach we have pursued so far delivers results. On addressing the day-to-day migration challenges, we have come up with concrete operational actions. Actions which started to have an impact in terms of fewer irregular arrivals, more effective returns, and the fight against smuggling that risks human lives for profit. At the same time, we are working on increasing legal pathways to support to third countries with capacity-building measures. We appreciate the intense work on the legislative track. The political agreement reached by the ministers at the Justice and Home Affairs Council last week on the general approach on the new pact on migration and asylum is indeed a major step. It demonstrated that this is an area where member states could find a large qualified majority in support for two key pillars of the pact. I'm talking about the Asylum and Migration Management Regulation and the Asylum Procedure Regulation. The Commission welcomes the political agreement reached by the member states because this is a real breakthrough after years of intense negotiations, and I would like to thank the Swedish presidency for that wholeheartedly. Trilogues on these two pillars of the pact have started right away this week with the first good trilogue, and it is our joint duty to deliver on the reform of our migration policy. And now we have the momentum to do so. President von der Leyen will send again a letter to the leaders ahead of the European Council outlining the progress on operational measures and taking stock of the work of the co-legislators. The Commission welcomes the important steps taken by the co-legislators under the joint roadmap with a clear goal to adopt the pact before the end of the mandate. And this comes in addition to the provisional agreements already found on three other pillars of the pact, like the Reception Conditions Directive, Qualification Regulation and the Resettlement Framework Regulations, while trilogues started already on Eurodac and Screening Regulation. And I would like to commend and thank the European Parliament for having adopted its negotiation mandates on key files of the pact already in April, because we know that this is massive work, be it on screening regulation, asylum and migration management regulation, asylum procedure regulation, and the crisis proposals. But this just proves and shows that the large majority across the political groups supports this reform. The position of co-legislators offers a good foundation for the negotiations, and therefore interinstitutional negotiation should now intensify. It is essential that we all remain committed and open to compromise, to create fairer, more efficient and sustainable system for asylum and migration management, and to show that with trust and cooperation we can meet and master our common challenges. So I will stop here, but before I will do that, I also would like to thank Jessica the team of the Swedish presidency for excellent cooperation, not only here in the European Parliament, but we are also sitting together in the General Affairs Council. Thank you for great work and your personal commitment. Thank you very much for the attention.
Danke.